When you can't make sense of the world today,
ask Mr. Jordan to show you the way.
On the birds and the BS.
Hey guys, Kevin here. So this video was given to me by a good friend, Mr. Jovi Val. Yes, the same Jovi Val who was stabbed for wearing a MAGA hat. He's a great activist, a big asset to our community, and I recommend all of you go check out Jovi Val on Twitter. Anyway, let's get into this video.
Morning everyone, and welcome to the Birds and the BS, where we encourage you to actually take the advice you give your children.
Speaking of children, doesn't this guy look like a pedophile, Mr. Rogers? Well, Mr. Rogers already looked like a pedophile, but this guy, I mean, Jesus Christ.
Today's letter comes from Allie in Alabama. Dear Mr. Jordan, my son is always playing with his gum and spitting it on the floor, so I've made a no gum in the house rule. My daughter says she always uses her gum responsibly, so it's still her right to chew. Should I let my daughter keep her gum? Allie, let me use an analogy to help with this one. Imagine for a moment that I am surrounded by people who play with their gun. With these people spitting bullets all over, would my mother still let me keep my gun? Here to answer that question is my favorite mother from live musicals on TV, Anna Gasteyer. Thank you.
So of course he brings out a television actress and not an actual gun expert. And I do find it funny that the people the left use to push this Second Amendment repeal agenda, they're all people who live behind the walls of gated communities with armed guards. Or they're naive kids who know nothing about gun policy. Kids like David Hogg, who, by the way, David Hogg's father made his living by the gun as an FBI agent who owns multiple guns. And now his son is being paraded around the country with private security who are armed with guns.
Sit up straight. You look like Shigeru Quasimodo.
If I were using my gun the right way, but others weren't, would you still let me keep mine?
Of course not.
But I didn't do anything wrong.
It's a fair point you make. This was not your mistake. I'm a law-abiding son. Why take away my gun? But as a mother in charge of your fun, the acts of another can ruin it for everyone.
Alright guys, time out. So what they're doing here is they're using this mother as an analogy for the state. And guys, this just shows you how the left infantilize everything. And I don't know about you, but I don't want a bunch of growth-retarded man-children and woman-children dictating policy in America. Because the difference between left versus right on policy is exactly this. The left want to judge the group by the actions of the individual. They want to punish the group for the actions of the individual, while we on the right want to judge the individual by their own merit and punish the individual, not the group, for their actions.
That's because, as you always say...
This is why we can't have nice assault weapons or you-know-what guns of any kind. When it comes to our kids, it's time for us to step in instead of think and pray for peace of mind. Government says sacrifices sometimes should be made in the name of the...
Okay guys, so right here she's talking about how our loving government, who love us so much, they just want us to make a few little sacrifices for the greater good. And that got me thinking of other examples of our government asking us to make sacrifices for the greater good. Examples like Operation Northwoods, maybe, where our government planned out mass shootings on U.S. soil in the 1960s to provoke a war with Cuba. They actually did this. And if you don't think they're capable of doing something like that again, you are insane. Other examples like Operation Mockingbird, where our government planned to use the mainstream media to push propaganda down our throats so that we would justify any war that they wanted to go out and start. Do you not think that our government still uses the mainstream media to push propaganda? Propaganda like this, maybe? Another example, when we were lied to by our government to go into the war in Iraq. And before that, the war in Vietnam. So in those wars, the wars in which your loving government asked you just to sacrifice a little bit, just sacrifice a few more of your children, how many kids do you think died? Because I guarantee you it was 1,000, maybe 10,000 the number of kids that were killed by mass shootings. And here's the thing, the only thing stopping that government from demanding you sacrifice everything is a well-armed populace.
Sacrifices sometimes should be made in the name of the greater good. Someone tainted Tylenol, they fixed the flaw. There was one shoe bomb, and they changed the law.
So don't these people realize that the shoe bomber is the perfect example of why we shouldn't legislate every time somebody does something stupid? We are no safer today than we were before September 11th. Our TSA, who grope us every time we want to enter a terminal, have a failure rate of 90%. All they've managed to do with legislation is to make a police state around the airports and make air travel miserable for everybody. And you know what? If they start legislating every time a terrorist act occurs, what happens when it happens on a boat? Are we going to bring the TSA and that whole show to the boats, to the cruise ships? What about at a nightclub? Are we going to end up like Israel where everybody has to be prodded just to enter a nightclub? Guys, like I said, this was never about safety. This has always been about control. And these guys are singing the praises of those control freaks.
And when guns kill kids, that's the final
Second Amendment.
Ah, that's exactly what they always do. They shoot us down by invoking the Second Amendment. Don't they understand how much there is to lose? There are lives at stake and don't forget whose. Nothing's more important than the safety of a child. So time to take your guns and the rhetoric you stockpiled.
No, there's definitely something more important than the safety of a child, and that is freedom. Because without freedom, life isn't worth living. And our Second Amendment, not only does it protect our children on the individual basis, as I protect my kids here in my home with a weapon, it also protects our general freedoms. Because all you have to do is go look at countries where they trusted the loving government, where they made sacrifices for the greater good, countries like North Korea, and see how the children lived there. See how the children lived in Nazi Germany. See how the children live in Venezuela right now. That's not a life worth living.
Whoa, that's pretty radical. Most of us are against assault weapons, but even we liberals can't go after the Second Amendment itself.
Why not?
I mean, we just don't. It's always, look, we're not saying we're coming for your guns.
Actually, now we are.
So guys, right here is where I ask you to share this video, guys. You have to share this with everybody you know, because this is what the left is all about. They want your Second Amendment rights. It is exactly what I've been saying since I started doing these gun videos. The left will not be happy until they take your Second Amendment rights, and then they still won't be happy. What do you think is going to happen after they get your Second Amendment? Are they just going to say, okay, we're happy now. You guys go ahead and live your lives. We'll live ours. No, they can't just let us live. They will go after our First Amendment rights next. And without your First Amendment to voice dissent and your Second Amendment to protect yourself when you voice that dissent, there is nothing left. There will be consequences, guys, if they keep pushing down this road. There will be secession movements. And I don't think it'll be states like before. I think it'll be more like what's happening in California, where the suburbs and the rural areas want to secede from the coastal cities.
Wait, really?
This is why we can't have compromise. I understand you think that hunting's neat, but sometimes our pastimes jeopardize our lives, which matter more than your precious skeet. I understand you really had a ball, then one lone wolf went and ruined it all. And by one, I mean 96 deaths a day.
So even though there are a lot of people who use guns responsibly, the fun we get to have with them isn't worth the destruction they cause?
Exactly. You know, there's a lot of things we do that with.
Like lawn darts,
Uh-huh.
Sudafed, and adopted animals are harder to get than a gun because of the actions of a few.
Exactly.
But what about safety? And guns for protection?
Allow me to issue a logic correction. A gun beneath your pillow makes you feel secure. Till you think your granny's a burglar, then it loses its allure. They say a good guy with a gun could stop a bad guy with a gun.
But neither has to die if neither one has one.
How foolish. Do these people really think that if we give up our Second Amendment rights, that criminals are going to stop carrying guns? That if we disarm the police, society will be safer? For God's sakes, guys, these people need to travel outside their bubble. They need to go just walk a few miles down the street into East LA, or maybe go down to El Salvador. I lived in El Salvador for a few years. I can tell you, They bought into this nonsense. They disarmed their population. They pushed socialism. And those people today live like victims. They live behind huge walls with barbed wire and broken glass bottles on their roofs so people won't crawl over their roof to get in their homes. And guess what? With a disarmed populace, El Salvador has the highest murder rate in the world right now. It did nothing to disarm the people except increase the crime rate and create a victim class. And that's what left-wing ideologies do. They punish the hardest working, they punish the most responsible, and empower the corrupt, empower the criminal. And that's what this is all about. These people don't believe that they're going to make the world safer. They know that their agenda requires an all-powerful government, requires theft, and requires oppression. And they know that the American populace will not allow them to push their agenda, so they have to disarm us first. Because if these people start openly admitting what they want for this country, there would be an immediate backlash. Guys, this is very important. I hope you guys share this video. I hope you show everybody how infantile, how naive, and how malicious these left-wingers are. Guys, follow me on my 2 channels, The Patriot Punk and Marxism, The New AIDS, both on YouTube. And you can check me out on Facebook and Twitter. I'll link in the description below. God bless.